Well, welcome back to The Megan Show. Thank you so much for tuning in. Today I want to go over my favorite makeup brushes and how I use them. The Megan Show. For foundation, I love that It Cosmetics loves the foundation brush. Love is in the name. It's got the cute heart-shaped head, and it's got really good density. They come out with these every year. They have different handles every year. This one's like a white holographic chrome look. I got this for Christmas 2023. I absolutely love it. Again, the density is what's important here, and the shape. With all of the brushes I'm going to be talking about, if you don't have that exact one, that's okay, but more talking about the shape and the density of the brushes is what is most important. But most of the brushes, pretty much except for this one, are all going to be affordable, although this It Cosmetics one usually runs about $30 or so, but I think my sister got it on sale around Christmas time for like $12, so that is an absolute steal. But the rest of these brushes are going to be Real Techniques and Morphe mostly, a couple Sigma in there, and all of those are relatively affordable and accessible. The It Cosmetics brush for foundation, it's got good density, really good for blending out foundation seamlessly. For under eye, I have a few favorites, but we're first going to start out with a concealer brush from Real Techniques. This is one of my favorites. Classic YouTube from 2012, 13, 14, 15. Sam and Nick Chapman were absolute goats on YouTube. Their brand, Real Techniques, is still very iconic. Very affordable and accessible makeup brushes and sponges. Targeted blending brush of an oval shape, it's thicker, and it just really gets in that under eye nicely for concealer. It gives a good blend, and it's kind of a good alternative if you're used to using a makeup sponge for under the eye, but you don't want to get your fingers all dirty or get it all messy. Using a brush might relieve you from that, or maybe that's just a me problem. But sometimes when I don't want to use a makeup sponge under the eye, a good concealer brush can do the job. So this is a great for blending. It's got that density like a foundation brush, but just in a smaller targeted way. So definitely recommend this one for concealer. For powder under the eyes, I've got two, also both from Real Techniques. This one is the OG though. This is their classic setting brush. I've gone through a few of these over the years. This is just that classic tulip shape. It's got the tapered edge, and this again just gets right under there, and the taperedness of it helps with blending. You'll see that with other brushes. When you've got a taper, that helps with getting a seamless blend. This one I got in a maybe holiday collection with the funky handle, but Real Techniques, it really acts very similarly to this setting brush. It's just a little bit bigger, so this can do the job too. So Real Techniques setting brush for under eye. For bronzer, I have a Morphe brush here, the E3. I've had most of these brushes for so many years. It's absolutely hilarious, and also so sorry I didn't wash them for this, but these are my daily drivers. I use these every single day, and I'm just really not out here washing my brushes daily or weekly or monthly. Don't tell anybody. Okay, so this bronzer brush, again, it's got that tulip shape similar to the setting brush, just of course in a much larger form factor. This is a great for diffusing. I do a lot of bronzer. Bronzer is one of my favorite face steps. I really get in on that cheek, all over the forehead, down the nose. Blending is one of the most important things with your makeup as a whole. You want your entire face to be nicely blended and meshed together. You don't want any harsh lines anywhere. So I can start putting bronzer right on my cheekbone, and with this tapered edge, it will ensure that the edges of where the bronzer is going is nice and diffused. So I'm putting bronzer here, but it's going to be diffused above and below where I'm putting it. So I'm making that line, just really diffusing it. The larger shape can just get across my forehead really easily, down the nose. So a tapered brush for bronzer is definitely a go-to. For blush, I have two different shapes. This first one is a Luxie 514 blush brush. Now this one is different than the brushes I've been talking about, where the other ones have tapered edge, but the very middle are a little bit longer than these ones on the very edges. But this one is a good shape to get right on that apple. It still gives that good blend because it's looser bristles as opposed to like the foundation brush where they're all packed together really tightly. A looser brush all together will give a more blended look because of it being so loose. It'll give that diffused look. This one is an Ollie and Olivia. A lot of these brushes are also from Ipsy years and years ago, where Ipsy would always give you a brush along with the samples of makeup. So a lot of these brushes in my collection that have lasted years and years are from Ipsy, so shout out Ipsy. So this is a classic angled brush, good for blush. I mean, the angled is perfect to get, again, right on that apple, and whereas the previous brush is just big and diffused, this one you can get more targeted. So right on that cheek and, you know, maybe sweeping up towards the back of the cheek. An angled brush for blush or for contour, again, getting right where you want it is a good idea. For highlighter, who remembers the fan brushes of the old days? Everyone was using fan brushes for highlighter to get it right on that top of that cheekbone. Well, I'm not doing that. I'm pretty sure this is a Real Techniques brush as well. It came in a big set of like 12 of them with all these different colored handles, so I'm pretty sure this is Real Techniques. This is a more tapered brush, but more round as opposed to some of the other ones. This is a completely round taper, so again, those bristles right at the top are the longest. It just tapers right down on the edges, and I just like this for highlighter. It gets right on the top of that cheekbone. You can blend it where you want it. Again, the taper helps to give a good blend. No matter where you're putting it, it is going to diffuse that powder wherever you're laying it down. So I love this for highlighter. My dark horse favorite makeup brush is my Fallout brush. Now this is a dual fiber brush. So the way I use this, you can see how the bristles at the very top are so thin compared to the bristles at the bottom. So really the bristles at the top are only what is touching my face when I do this. So say you have eyeshadow fallout, I just get right in there with these thin fibers and I just brush it away really easily. Like, the whole point of getting rid of fallout in the most efficient way is to use very little pressure. So if you're putting down a lot of pressure and trying to sweep it away, you're gonna drag that pigment across the face. So the way to try to get around that is using very, very little pressure with these tiny little bristles, and I'm just quick motions sweeping that away. So at the end of any makeup look, I'm always going back in, looking in the mirror closely, and using this brush to sweep away anything I don't want to see. So this is a top product I want to recommend. Again, you don't have to have this exact brush, but a duo fiber brush similar to this, you will thank me later. I have a really big eyeshadow brush collection, but I just want to touch on a few. The first one is this one from a Sephora collection a long time ago, several years ago. I got it on a Black Friday. It came with several, and this one ended up on top. I've used it for years and years and years, and for one particular purpose. It's because, again, it has that tapered edge, and it just really lets me get into the inner part of my eye very easily. So I use this one for cream color eyeshadow just about every day. So again, it's that shape where it's like a paddle brush. It's kind of thicker and it's got that tapered edge. So this can be a good eyeshadow shader brush for all over the lid. And because it's a little bit thicker, it can do a little bit of blending in that crease, but definitely not a blending brush, more of like a packing brush. This is a skinnier blending brush. So this is one that I start out a lot of looks with. Get right in that crease, going windshield wiper motions. This is a good starter one because it is thinner. And then I've got a couple of brushes here, the Sigma and Morphe. These are very similar shapes. The Sigma is the tapered blending E40 and the Morphe is the E27. So Sigma here, Morphe here. These are both very similar shapes. They've got a slight taper on the edge, but they're just a little bit thicker than that last brush. So these are more my second step. After the transition shade, I get maybe a little bit darker shade with these larger brushes, get a little bit lower in that crease, hit the outer corner a little bit, still blending up and out, getting a good seamless blend. But with these being a little bit bigger, I cover a little more surface area with a little bit darker shades to really get that good blend. Do want to touch on the Sigma blending E25. This is the most tapered, very oval, more pinched at the ferrule. This is really good. It's got a lot of green on it right now. I've got in my eyeshadow brush collection, one side's got more of my brushes I use for colored eyeshadow. The ones in the middle are all my neutrals. and the one on the left is just all the other ones, all different shapes. A little bit more tapered so it can get in there, a little more pinched, so it can maybe be more precise than some of the last ones I was showing. Lastly, I want to touch on this one. This is also Real Techniques with that collection that had funny, different colored handles. Now this one is pinched and more of a square top. Now I use this exclusively to get under the eye. I do my lower lash line with this just about every day, and my top lash line. So this is my like really definer brush. After I've done all the diffusing, big eyeshadow in the crease area, I'm going in with my darkest shade of that day and just going right under the lash line, right on top of the lash line to just define the outer corners of any look. So this one again is a classic eyeshadow brush shape that I'm sure you can find in lots of different ways. But this shape really is good to get right under that eye, being flat, but still having a little bit of thickness to where it can still blend in that outer corner if you need it a little bit diffuse. So these are some of my favorite makeup brushes that I use every day in my collection. I hope you were able to learn something from this or learn a new way that you can use some of the brushes in your own collection. Thank you so much for watching The Megan Show. I'll see you in my next one. Bye.